Welcome everyone this Saturday to our spaces. We are start to go. How was your new year, guys? Hope everyone had a wonderful new year and very Merry Christmas. And you're all set up to go in the year 2022, which promises to be fun, right? So today we're going to talk about exporting, right? We've been talking about it all week. I did a post and I got tons of requests on my DM. I mean, my DM was flooded. Everyone wants to know about how to export. How can I export and how can I earn foreign currency? I think it's a function of the Naira being depreciated so much that this is generating a lot of interest. So everyone wants to know how we can earn, how we can diversify our income into a second line, and also how we can get that dollar, that greenback. So I think it's a very, very good thing as well, because if we then have this mindset of exporting, then the economy also gets better, because when we demand more agricultural products to export, we are increasing the demand and, of course, increasing the prices and the wealth for the local farmers. So I think it's a win-win for everyone, really. So I try to get an exporter, someone that has done it and is doing it and understands the ins and outs of exporting, right? So I got a very, very good guy. His name is Emmanuel Ajayi. I'm going to call him up so he can introduce himself. Emmanuel, if you can unmute, we can know who you are. You can tell us what you're doing. Let's just get an introduction, really, of who you are, how long you've been exporting, what do you export, right? And then from there, we can take it and then talk about, go in detail into what exporting is all around. So, Emmanuel, you have the floor. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, good evening and good morning, good afternoon, everyone, depending on wherever you are. I am Emmanuel Ajayi. I'm the managing director of MJX Company Limited. We are based in Ghana with hams all over West Africa. We've been in the export business for over 15 years. Practically, we do non-traditional agricultural products. When I say not traditional, I'm speaking of day-to-day agricultural products that are not controlled by government export only. Now, let me give you an example of non-agricultural, not traditional products. Pineapple, mango, cassava, yam, cashew nut, palm kernel oil, palm kernel shell, palm kernel cake. We do firewood, we do timber, sun timber, round timber, square logs. We do all kinds of fruits as far as is available in Africa, in exportable quantity, in exportable quality. And if the price comparison and the market is profitable, we do it. We do charcoal, we do shisha hookah charcoal, we do barbecue charcoal, we do briquette, we do coconut, we do a lot. We are having on daily basis as far as there is demand and there is availability to supply anywhere in West Africa, and if it's in Africa and the price comparison, it's okay. We are into it. So basically, that is me and my company. I think we should start from there.
Great.
Mr. Kalu, thank you.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Emmanuel. That's a good overview of who you are and what you do. Let me ask you, just to know, I'm talking on behalf of everyone that is just listening, right? We want to really get to the nitty-gritty of this. So first question for you, is this profitable? Can I export and build a house and educate my children and buy a car and buy a house in America if I export? That's the first question. Emmanuel?
It is extreme. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, it is extremely profitable. It's extremely profitable. Let me take even the products that you might not pay attention to, something that doesn't look lucrative, that looks dirty. Let me take, for example, charcoal. I've done a contract for charcoal worth over $500,000 within a month before. That's just the black charcoal you see that you think it's worth nothing. I built 2 houses from proceeds of charcoal as far back as 2010, and the profit, if you know what you're doing, you know how to do it, and you are really good at it, it is a very, very profitable business to do. You do your processes apart from freight in the local currency, and you earn in foreign currency. So you can keep your earnings in foreign currency, or you can decide to liquidate it into the local currency, whatever. But it is a very good and very profitable kind of business. It is. It's extremely profitable.
Okay. That is. Thanks, Iman. So that's the first question I wanted to clear up, because I'm asking you questions that I got on DM, and these are like, I just summarized them, right? So the next question really is this: step by step, right? If I wanted to export, step by step, what should I do? Number 1, what should I do? Number 2, what should I do? Number 3? I mean, we just want to know, if I'm a brand new guy, I know nothing about exports. Let me just say this. I always tell people, before you do anything, go and do a lot of research before you even invest a kobo. I'm writing an article on exporting, and one thing that struck me is the complexity, right? The level of complexity and knowledge that you have to be aware of. You have to know your local laws. You have to know the export laws of the country you're going to. You have to know freight. You have to know foreign currency. You could have a great product and you could export it and pay duty, or there could be a note on that export and you lose or it's rejected. For instance, I saw that if you want to export to China, you cannot export anything to China that has the words "made in China" on it. So they are referring to Taiwan in this case. So that means that anything that is made in Taiwan or has any markings that has "made in Taiwan" cannot be exported to China. And you would never think of something like that. I also saw, if you're going to export cocoa to the Netherlands or to Europe, they want to make sure it doesn't have residues of pesticides on it. So there are lots of stuff to worry about. But if I was a brand new guy, I was a graduate, I can't get a job, I don't have a lot of capital, let's say I have $100,000. 1, 2, 3. What should I do first to get into this? Very briefly, just simple.
Okay, let me answer like this. First, you need to identify a product that you can get within your supply chain that is of good quantity and the quality is top notch. Because the name of this business is about quality of product. The thing is this: I will have to give an example of a product. Now, let's assume that we are dealing with somebody who just got out of school, let's say from his savings from NYSC, could put up, let's say, $1 million max. I'm just hypothetically now. I will advise that you go into less complicated product for a start. Okay? Let me put, for example, there are markets for firewood, laid down firewood, and the minimum order quantity is normally 20-feet container or a 40-feet container. You make sure, do you have the supplies, or can you access this local material? Can you prepare it in the standard and the specification of export standardization? Because it's one thing to have the product, it's another thing to be able to put it in form that is exportable. Now you need to listen to the specification that is requested. You cut it into the proper sizes. You bundle it in the proper weight. Now you dry it in the proper level of dryness. That is one aspect about the product. Now you have to figure out about your logistic, transportation, port duties. For port issues, I would recommend 100% you work with an agent. If you are going to do it yourself, you are in the path of frustration from the beginning. You work with an agent, an export agent. They might want to charge you a little bit higher, but it is better to pay a little bit higher for that service and learn the ropes and see what they do, how they file the documentation, what export licenses you need, what certification from what agency you need, what standardization like inspection agency you need to inspect and certify that this is the standard, this is specification, this is what you have, this is what you don't have. Now, in pricing for export, this is where most of the beginners have a problem. Now, export itself has its own language. The buyer asks you, give me your price for, let's say, acacia firewood. And you are supposed to give me price FOB, APAPA, or they say CIF, Kandala, or CMF, Jebel Ali, Dubai. Now, listen, they are not just asking you that what it will cost to ship that. The terms are different. FOB, APAPA means that how much will it cost me for you to get this product into a container and ship it in APAPA? That's FOB APAPA. So your costing should end at the point of you, the container leaving. You are not going to pay for freight if you are giving FOB price. Now, if you are giving CNF Candela, it means that you are going to pay both the port documentation and the cost of freight to Kandla in India. That's a different price. You have to check what the shipping companies are going to charge for freight for that route. Now, another one, if they say CIF,
Hello, Emmanuel. I think we lost you a bit. So sorry about that, guys. Spaces has been kicking people off and on, especially if you use the Android. So I'm just going to wait for Emmanuel to come back. But let me just summarize what I heard him say. I asked him, right, how can you get into export? You know, like the 1, 2, 3, the step that you want to take to get into exporting. And he's responding that, listen, first of all, you have to do your research. You have to find out the quality and the quantity vis-a-vis your supply chain. Can you get those products in your supply chain? Number one. Number two, can you get those products in the right export quantity and the specifications as demanded by the importer in that country? So if you're looking at getting, say, charcoal, I would understand that how much charcoal or wood can you get from your local supply chain? And in what specification then can you get it? My next question to him was to ask him, who gives the specification and how do we then measure and confirm that the specs that we have, say, in Lagos is going to tie in with the specs that are requested from the importer in, say, Dubai? That's the question I've written down here for him. And of course, he's talking about FOB and CIF, free on board and cash in freight. And he was trying to explain the difference between both of them. So FOB is more or less, you get the products, you put them in the container, you take them to APAPA port, and that's where you invoice the importer, which means the importer is going to pay for his own freight, right? So your own costing will simply say, I'm going to buy this cocoa, I'm going to package it, I'm going to seal it, and I'll take it to the port of APAPA. Then your freight agent can then take it over from me, and that's where I submit my invoice for payment. But if you are doing CIF, which is freight, you're charging freight, in which case you're going to buy the cocoa, put it in the container, take it to Apapa, and then you are going to bill him from taking to Apapa to the destination port. That is what's going to be on your invoice. You're going to bill him to get all the way to the destination port. Now, he also mentioned that it's very, very important that you work with a registered agent, because like I said, I've been doing some reading up on this. There are lots of fees and there are lots of conventions in exporting. Your responsibility ends at stage this, and the importer's responsibility starts at stage that. So you may not understand because you're just an agriculturist or an exporter, but the agent will. He will make sure your own rights and your own legal obligations towards that contract are covered if you are trying to export. So it is very, very important that you work with a professional that knows what he is doing, and do not try to, should we say, save money by then trying to export yourself and then basically doing what you don't know. Again, let me just say this, guys. I'm writing an article on this, right? And in that article, I'm seeing a lot of information. I'm going to put the links in there for you so that if you want to start, you can basically have a step-by-step as well, just like what Emmanuel is saying. Your step-by-step. Step 1, you have to do this. Step 2, you have to do this. Step 3, you have to do this. So that way you are covered. But let me just say this now for all of us. It's a lot of research, right? You really have got to know, first of all, what you want to export. And I have a link for you there. I have a link that would show you the in-demand product. So I've done it both ways. If you want to export a specific commodity, I have a way you can click onto that link and it will tell you that this specific commodity is being requested in this specific countries offshore. So that's a lot easier for you to then target that export, right? I also have, if you basically want to find out what Belgium wants to import. So you don't know what to import, but you know or have a friend in Belgium, and you want to find out what Belgium basically needs to import. You can also go to that site, click on that link, and then you should be able to then say, oh, the Belgians want pharmaceuticals or they want cassava, and then you will be able to then export that to them. So it's going to be very, very easy in quotes. Yeah, easy in quotes, because you can basically do your research. This is a research-based business, guys. You have to know what you are doing before you get into it as well. I don't want to go too far because I want Emmanuel to really talk from the experience of his knowledge, right? So if we can get him to come back in quickly, I will take a few comments for people that have already requested to speak, and then we can then wait for him while he's back. Emmanuel, yeah, I can just log back in and I can just put you back on to speak. Yeah, precisely. Yes. All right. So now the next question I want to basically address, the next topic I want to address for you, is that you have to be very, very careful about when you are picking the products, right? I would say the first thing you guys should try to do is try to form, say, a cooperative, or try to go learn with someone that is doing this already. If you can go work for an export company, or you can go do maybe a 1 month or 1 week internship with someone that is actually exporting, so that you pick up on the nuances. Emmanuel was telling me a story before the spaces started of how he had exported cashew to India, and the products were not dried properly. And when the products got to India, he lost the entire shipment because the agent that he used to dry the cashew nuts in Nigeria didn't do a proper, they just put it out in the sun. So drying is very, very important to remove the moisture. And that's going to be one of the specifications that you're going to find when you are exporting. So if you pick what you want to export, pick the requirements that are needed from the import partners and confirm that you can actually do that. So it's not just exporting cocoa, it's exporting cocoa in a particular form, in a particular packaging that is going to be acceptable to the EU. When I researched the EU's cocoa imports. I saw a note there for Nigeria, and they said Nigerian cocoa was quote unquote under watch because of the use of pesticides, and it was there. It hadn't been removed. So I asked Emmanuel, could I still export cocoa to the EU? He said yes, but I sent him the link and I said, this is the link right here. The EU is saying that because of the use of pesticides, they will not allow Nigerian imports. But he said, for now, you can still export cocoa to the EU. So again, this is the point I'm making. Everything has what's called a flag on it. And if you do not meet those export requirements, and even if you have the product, then you stand the chance of that product being rejected. But let me just go on and say this, right? I can give you guys my own steps before Emmanuel comes in. The very, very first thing I would say you need to do is to do your research. And this is where I wanted us to really talk a lot about. You have to do your research. But the next thing you have to do is you've got to register a corporate entity, because in Nigeria, you're going to work with the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. And let me just give a shout out to those guys in Nigerian Export Promotion Council. I think that is one of the best government sites that I have seen in a long while in Nigeria. So if you know anyone that works in Nigerian Export Promotion Council, they are doing a very, very good job. Hey guys, sorry about that. I just got kicked off from my own spaces by Twitter. So again, apologies. This happens, especially if you're on the Android, you get kicked off and on. So I just got kicked off and I just put myself back on, right? So one thing I'll say is this: if you know anyone that works in the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, those guys are doing a fantastic job. Fantastic job. Their website is excellent, and it basically gives you step by step on how you can basically export. And Malik, you've got to reduce your volume if you don't mind. Thank you, Malik. Yeah. Malik, did you want to speak? I can let you speak once you reduce your volume, and then you can come on back and speak. So the NEPC basically has a step-by-step on exactly. Hey, Malik, how you doing? Go for it. Mommy. Hello? Yeah, so Malik, I might have to mute you if you don't mind. So the first thing I think you have to do is to register a company. You have to register a company either as a cooperative or with your friends so that you can register with the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. Very, very important that you do that, because then you can then get access essentially to all those resources that they have. They have tons of information there. And what I've done also in my article is I've taken out the key information from that site and put it just on this article. So just from this article, you are going to be able to essentially just go to those specific links and then follow up from there. The value chain for exports, let me just say the value chain for exports is basically this, right? You have to do your assessment and your finances. That's what Emmanuel has talked about right now, to say, hey, can I get the products that I need from my value chain? And can I fund my business? It's essential that you get money, not a bank loan for export, because exports sometimes could delay, your ship could capsize, you could have product delays at the port. That if you have a bank loan that you're going to repay interest on a set basis, it might just kill that idea for you. So I would always appreciate or recommend if you use your own capital or family and friends or a profit sharing mechanism like a crowdfunding mechanism to do your export, at least for the first time. So you're not basically paying this interest without you basically doing any export. So get your funding for the business set up, right? And then do your internal assessment. This is what we're talking about, the quantity and the quality of what you want to basically buy. Then you want to have your logistics, which is called your aggregation. So if you're going to go into cocoa, you have to have a place where you are going to store the cocoa that you want to export. If you go to Oyo, to the villages, and you buy the cocoa, it still has to come to an aggregation center where you are keeping them, sealing them, storing them, probably drying them into export quantity. This logistics would involve transportation, the storage, and then the actual exporting. And then, of course, the receipts of the proceeds. So the export business is information, but it's also logistical. You have to know what you are doing, where you are going to store the cocoa, and how you are going to export. When you open an account, the next thing you also have to do is to go to a Nigerian bank and open a domiciliary account, because that's where you're going to get your foreign currency payments into the account. So the number one thing you want to do is to do your broad research, right? That's your assessment, your internal assessment. Do your assessment, find out what you want to export, find out the market for that product. Do that first of all before you even do anything. Then number two, you want to then get the funding for the business. Based on what you want to export, the funding will then determine how much funding you need. For instance, if the minimum size to export cocoa is 1 ton, and 1 ton costs $2,000, then you can instantly see that the minimum capital that you need to export is going to be $2,000. So do your internal assessment first. The next is going to be to do your funding arrangement. And I would always advise, like I said, don't fund your export to the bank loan. Try to raise equity or crowdfunding or get money and friends, at least for the first time. Once you have done this, then talk about your sourcing. Can you get the quantity and the quality as required by the export partner? Then determine your logistics. Are you going to own the warehouse where you are storing? Are you going to lease it out? What truck would you use? Are you going to buy this truck? Are you going to lease it as well? Where would you dry? Where would you pack it? Where would you ship to Apapa for export, right? Then you then go and open up a company. It is important that you open a company, because then you can then work with the NEPC. Then you have to go to the Nigerian Export Promotion Council and ensure that you register your company as an exporter. Very, very important. So you register the company, you register it with NEPC, and then you go to a Nigerian bank and then you do a domiciliary account, because that is how you are going to get paid. The other things you need to do, like I said, the export potential framework, I can give that to you guys by a link by next week. And it's very detailed. You can literally go into that site and say, if I want to export to a particular country, it will tell you what that country needs in terms of exports. For instance, if I want to export soya beans, I can know which countries need soya beans, and I can tell the competition that is exporting to that country already. I can see how much Nigeria exports soya beans to that country, and I can literally see the gap in Nigeria from the export potential for soybeans in Nigeria to what Nigeria is actually exporting. I can basically see all that. And that's what I'm going to give to you guys on that article next week. So we've talked about your internal assessment, your logistics, your funding. You register with the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. That's a great government agency doing great work there. I just have to give them a shout out. They're doing an excellent job. Then you go and set up your domiciliary account. Like Emmanuel has recommended, you have to get an export agent that knows what he is doing. You have to pay attention to the regulatory requirements, right? You have to know the name. If you want to export cocoa, you have to know the exact name that is used by the exporters. For instance, cocoa is 180100. That's the actual export name for cocoa, right? And like I said, I did see a notice there that you couldn't export. You have to have an agent that will give you the exact requirements you need to export cocoa, say to the EU or to any other country. Then you have to then start your exports, right? How do you cost it? I also have a template for you guys, right? When you are costing your export, like Emmanuel has talked about, you have to ask, is it going to be CIB or CIF? I have a template for you. You're going to basically plug in your costs. How much did it cost you to get those inputs? How much did it cost you to store them? And how much does it cost you to transport them to the port? That Excel template will basically drill it down and give you your local cost in Nigeria, give you your exchange rate differential, and then give you a cost or the price per unit of export. Then that way you can find out if that export is actually worth your while, right? It's one thing having the quantity, but quite frankly, another thing to have the quantity and to export it in the price that makes a profit for you. So if you can export at a price that makes a profit for you, then there really is no point. If all this is before we start talking about a letter of credit from your bank, open up an line of credit and all that from the bank. These are what I think we have to focus on if we are going to do export. Getting the information, researching that information before you even start is critical to success. All right, guys, I'm going to stop here, right? I think we've been on for about 10 minutes. If you guys want to speak, I will then let you guys come in and have a word or two. I think Babatunde Emmanuel is having some issues. He's calling in from Ghana, so I have some issues with connectivity. But I'm going to allow you guys to hop in now. And yeah, I can take questions now. How are you doing, Mr. Unlimited? And thank you, Niran. So we're going to go with Mr. Unlimited, then we're going to go with Niran, and then we're going to go with Adeniyi. Go ahead, guys. Mr. Unlimited, yeah.
Good evening, home.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. First of all, I just want to say thank you very much for doing this.
You're very welcome, sir.
Get me overemphasized. All right, quick one. I've got 3 questions from what you've said so far.
Okay.
First of all, you talked about an agent. I mean, we're familiar with the way things are being done in our country, Nigeria.
Yes.
I don't want to go to. I wouldn't want to meet someone that is supposedly an agent and get
burnt. Yeah.
I don't really know. I can't see an agent and say you're an agent for sure. I don't even know how the ID card should look like. So I was thinking, do you have recommendations? You have people that okay, these are agents in the field that we can actually go up to and do this way.
What I will? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Let me just take it down. Okay, agent. Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah, agent. Then the second question is, you talked about an internship, which is, for me, that's the best way to learn. That's the best way to come into this field from the 0 point, from novice that we all are. And most of us are actually, And then I wanted to ask, do you have people you can say, okay, why don't you guys try and hook up with this way? Why don't you try and hook up with this agency? Or do you have a way to, bear us, 5, 10, 10? I don't know how you're going to do it, okay? You guys should go and meet with this person. Have so amount of money, meet with this person, and then let's have it there for a month, 2 months, and see how it goes. That's the second question. Anyway, so the third question will be, on the site or on the article you say you're working on, which will be a very great one. I don't know, is there a possibility for you to include, I don't know, if I'm to export something to China, for instance, yes, I've seen the competition, I've seen what I should export to China, I've seen the standard, but am I exporting to the Chinese government? Is it to companies, to private individuals? I don't know, I just hope, just asking if these details will be in the article you want to come, where I know exactly whom I'm dealing with, not just China, maybe company and individual or something.
I hear you.
That'll be awful.
Yeah, great questions. Yeah, and I'll just take them very quickly. So after you, I've got Adeniyi, I've got Neya, and I've got Mohammed Saraki. I'll just see your questions very quickly. So for agents, right, the best I'm going to do is to maybe give you a link to the registered agents in Nigeria. I can't vouch for anyone, but at least if they are registered and they have an association, that's the best I can do, right? So I'll maybe put a link to registered agents in Nigeria. For the internships, I don't have any on ground. I will try to work with Emmanuel and see if it's something he's interested in. Maybe he can do a masterclass, or just because it's someone's business, right? So people are always sometimes, want to keep their things private. But I'm sure around you, there's someone that is doing one leg of export that you can talk to. But I'll speak to Emmanuel and see if it's something that he'll be interested in, right? For the link, for your last question of who are you exporting to, very good question. On the link, right, it's got lots of ways you can do your research. There's actually like a market board, like an OLX, where you see people requesting for export. So you see people saying, I want to buy cashew, I want to buy paper, I want to buy soybeans. So it's right there. You can basically go to that site and link up with that person and basically then start to talk, right? So you are exporting to a person, just like how you import. You are exporting to a person or a company that has an agent. That's exactly how it goes. So that way you can talk to this person directly. Then he will now give you a term sheet saying, we want cocoa in this quantity, in this quality, and we want it FOB or CIF. So it's all going to be there, correct? Okay, Mr. Limited.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Yeah. So I got Niron. Niron, you're next. Go for it, sir.
Good evening. Thank you so much for this wonderful session.
Hey, Niron,
and I would just quickly like to add that for exporting, there is a part that is called certification. I'm not sure if we've discussed that. So basically, for certification, different countries requires different levels of certification for different products, especially in the agri sector. Some of them could be phytosanitary certification, residue certification, and all of that. And also, different countries requires different certification. For instance, countries that are more inclined towards Islamic religion, they require a certification called halal. Countries like EU, like Germany, they require certifications like Rainforest Alliance, certifications like good agricultural practices, which basically speaks to environmental sustainability and biodiversity, all those things. And it's very important that these certifications are in place, because if you are exporting to these countries and you don't have this certification, there are chances that your products will be rejected. I don't know if we all heard about some 2-3 years ago when Nigeria, like 5,000 tons was rejected, or Nigerian beans were rejected in Vietnam. So this is simply because those certifications were not in place. And I'm adding this so that everybody can be aware before they venture into exporting that they need to get the certifications right. And different countries require different certifications. And interestingly, we have a lot of companies that can assist with that in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, where I work, we've been able to do this for our client. As at last year, we had a client that we helped export ginger, about 2,000 tons of ginger to Germany. And this is simply because we were able to perfect all their certification needs, bringing all the
Nero, are you an exporter?
Hello?
Are you an exporter?
No, I'm not an exporter, but I work with exporters.
We
produce exporters.
I think people want to know, so you can drop the name. That's fine. You can drop the name. People would like to know.
Okay, so if you want to learn more about how certification works, the types of certifications, the countries you can take your produce to, you can send me a DM. I don't know if I'm allowed to advertise our company, but you can send me a DM now, and we can probably talk about it later.
Nero, why don't you send me the information, and I will publish it on the Twitter handle, so that way everyone can get it, right? I just want it to be an open information. So are you guys exporters? How with this certification? What company does certification in Nigeria? Can you name one here? Nero? Hello? Okay, guys. So if Nero sends me a DM, I will share on Twitter. What he's talking about is very, very important, right? He's talking about the certification. I think I have him back right here. This certification is one thing that I saw that really, more or less got my attention. It's all about the place.
I was offline. Can you recap this?
Yeah, so Niron, I'm saying, number one, right? If you could give us the name of the certification company, we would appreciate it. And number two, if you could share the information with me, either DM or online, I would publish to everyone and also put in the article. But so go ahead and just share the information, because we're all here to learn.
Okay, so there is a certification called Rainforest Alliance, RA certification, and that certification basically is tending towards sustainability. And so most of these European countries, they are very crazy about
producing in a sustainable way. And the benefit of that is that you get to sell your produce at premium. There is another certification called organic certification. That certification simply means you are producing with minimal use of chemicals or of synthetic products. That is, you are producing in an environmentally sustainable way. And we all know that organic produce, they attract premium prices. So some of these certifications allows you to export products that will be bought at very, very premium prices. And for some of them, we have different global organizations that coordinate this organization, but none of them is in Nigeria. So what we do in my organization is to help our clients to attain this certification. That is what we basically do, and so far we've had many successes doing that. So basically, we make sure that your production process aligns with the requirements of these certificates, of these certifying bodies. So when we have been able to perfect your production process, for instance, we do monitoring of your farmers to ensure that they are not using.
Okay, no. What's the name of your company? Are you guys? So what's the name of the company?
Futux Agri-Consult Limited.
Okay.
FUTUX Agri-Consult Limited. We are on all social media platforms.
Send me a DM. I'll put it on Twitter right now so people can follow. Just send me the company link or so on DM. I'll put it on Twitter and then put your just go and grab it there. Stay, don't log out. I'm going to keep you here. Stay on so that we can have in case someone has a question. But then I have Neely next. So Neely, go for it, sir. You're ready to speak. Go. I have Adeni.
Yes. Good evening.
How you doing?
Thanks so much for this space. It's been very informative so far. I have a hopefully simple question, especially after hearing Mr. Miron speak now. I'm not sure if my question is related to what he just spoke about. But earlier in your introduction, you mentioned about the rejection of Nigerian produce due to high pesticide levels. And my question pretty much is how do you as an exporter or an agriculturist, how do you actually determine the level of pesticides in your produce? I'm sure the Europeans measure it in a certain way, and that's how they can determine what the level is, right? So how can you actually measure your own level of whatever pesticides they could be to be sure that they actually meet up with those requirements before you export them? And that's why I said I'm guessing it might be related to what Mr. Miron just spoke about. I'm not too sure, but
same thing here. Great question, and same thing I was going to ask as well. Who does this certification and how do they do it? Nero, can you take that for us? I mean, do you guys do it, or do you know how it is done, i.e. the practicals?
Yes, so basically what we do is that we send samples of your produce. For instance, let me use the example of ginger. That is the last crop we did just as the year was coming to an end. That was like 2 weeks ago. So they take random samples of the produce that you are planning to export. We send this produce to the nearest lab. Unfortunately, we don't have so many labs in Nigeria that does that. So we send it to sometimes the client that is buying it, or especially that is abroad, they will give you, they will tell you to send the produce to them, so they take it to their labs. So the labs comes out with the report. So when the sample is sent back, they give you the feedback of what has gone wrong with the produce. If it meets their specific requirements, then you can go ahead and start exporting. But basically, the way to know if you are produced according to the requirements that they request you to send samples to the lab,
Gotcha.
And the lab comes back with the reports. Yeah.
So we don't have any labs in Nigeria at the moment. So basically, if I want to export soybeans, I will take my soybean samples and send to the lab specified. Then the lab will then say you are good to go, and then the lab will give me that certification. Is that it?
Yes, pretty much.
Okay, all right. I think that gives us an idea now. Like I said, guys, it's a lot of research involved. Nero, don't go anywhere. I think your question is answered. I'm going to have Neye. Are you good?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you.
Super. I'm going to have Neye Powers. Thank you for waiting. After Neye, I have the Farmer Boy. Farmer Executive, please stay on to speak. So I've got Neye and I've got Farmer Boy. Neye, go for it.
Okay.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for this space. I just think I miraculously joined this space because I actually have been interested in exporting.
Not God.
Yeah, so I also have business proposals actually of exporting charcoals and wood way back when I was in school. So I really didn't push through it because I didn't even have any idea about it. Yes, I made my research. I went to the Nigeria Exporting
Promotion Council.
Agency, the one at Apapa.
Yeah.
I made research there too and other stuff. So I have a question about actually exporting charcoals because I actually made research and they'll be like, oh, so many countries in Europe actually use charcoals. They have different kind of charcoals like the restaurants, barbecue, and so on and so forth. So where I actually stopped was when you get your charcoal from the charcoal factory company, like taking it to the port. So they feel like before you get your customer, you need to have a third party. And my auntie actually did this charcoal business before, and she was stooped because of this third party. It's like now a compulsory thing that you need to have a third party between you and the company you're working with.
A third party in Nigeria or a third party agent?
No, third party agent over there in the country.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's not working. It's as if I'm going to repeat the same mistake again.
You know,
like having the third party. Like, is there any way we can actually connect with our customers directly, sending our invoice ourselves and doing those stuff ourselves?
You know, I'm going to also bring back Nero, but let me just answer that. Like when I did research, I found message boards that were approved by the Nigerian Export Promotion Council that you could see people. It's just like Facebook. So you go to that Facebook in quote site and you see people saying, I want to buy charcoal and this is this, and you can talk to them. So I think if you were doing that, it's easier for you to then say, this is what that person needs. And then you can then talk to him directly. I'm going to put the link on the article. It's going to come out next week. So you can see that link and you can go to that market board and you can talk to people directly there. I don't know if that answers your question. I'm not an expert in this. Nero has just dropped off. I'm sure he will come back in. But I think that's going to be a place that you can basically get that information to speak to someone directly, i.e. an importer. Does that help a bit?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, just look out for it. There'll be a link there. You'll be able to talk. If Nero comes back in, I'll ask him, or if somebody comes in that knows about exports, I'll ask them as well. If anybody's listening, I can answer this question. Please hop in and also try to answer, right? Great. All right, next, just hang in. I'm sure somebody will definitely answer your question. I've got Farm Executive, then I've got Ibibio Man, then I've got the Farm Grid. So let's go with the Farmer Boy. Good day, sir.
Yeah, good day, sir. Good evening, everyone.
How you doing?
First and foremost, I want to correct some, should I say, misconception or saying we don't have a lab in Nigeria that does tests. Yeah, we do.
Okay.
But we don't. Let me say we don't have much reliable labs. Like there is a lab in Ibadan, and there is a lab in Ilorin.
What's the name of the lab in Ibadan?
University of Ilorin.
University of Ilorin.
Yeah, and there is a lab at University of Ibadan that does that.
Can I ask a question?
That is where I do my soil test.
Okay.
And you see, on certification of what you bring, now depends on what the person you are sending your produce to ask of. But definitely, I want to talk about why we are having so many challenges exporting our produce to anywhere in the country. Our major challenges is storage. We tend to use more of, let me say, insecticide, physical application of pesticide on our produce, rather than using modern approach to store most of our produce. For instance, we are supposed to use silos to store most of our grains. Rather, we use chemicals, we use tablets to store most of our grains. And directly or indirectly, most of these things have interference with our grains.
Gotcha.
That one is one. Secondly, you see, I don't want to say maybe Nigerian nature or the kind of people we are, starting from individual to government to everybody. I've had a lot of horrible experience with the so-called exporter or something. One, they don't want to invest their own direct money into this, but they want you as a farmer to bring your produce to them and wait forever till when they are able to pay you.
Interesting.
That one is one. Secondly, I don't want to use harsh word. You see, I don't think anything is wrong. You locating a market and linking a buyer, telling the buyer directly your percentage on the gains of whatever the person is bringing for you.
Yeah.
Even the so-called aggregators will only buy, as I have said earlier, they buy the mop up from different types of farmers with different approach of storage system. Phosphocene, this person might use phosphocene, the other person use. So for you to get the accurate content of that particular, what is it called, grains you are sending out will be a bit difficult. Until this exporter are sincere, link up directly with each farmers, talk to them, take their sample, mop it up, and if possible, have a group of people who are interested. Like I think sometimes around last year, Kwara State is the largest producer of catfish in Nigeria as far as we know now. And I approached my own governor because I was looking for opportunities to export this catfish. And my fear has been the process and every other, let me say, cumbersome way of exporting this produce. So I asked the essay to the governor on agriculture that, see, this thing requires diplomatic approach. Like government to government talking to each other. What do you want? Create an incubation center where individuals can bring their produce or anything they have that you have gotten a link to export for. Like Mr. Emmanuel now that knows much about how to export these things. By the time we have an incubation center where me as an individual or as a farmer take my produce to somebody very trustworthy, stand as a guarantor, give me a kind of, let me say, I don't know how to say, relief that on so time I'm going to get my money back.
Yeah.
Now I don't expect that if I'm selling a maize at 225 naira in Nigeria, the fact that you want to export that maize, I believe I should get more than just 225 naira. Because if you are telling me that I should sell for you and wait for you for 3 months before you can pay me, then why don't I just sell to the local market?
I hear you.
I believe we just need to, there should be a kind of synergy, and the exporter should be more sincere to the farmers on their approach.
Farmboy.
Again, I would like to ask Mr. Emmanuel if there is any market for catfish, because I have a lot of catfish, and there are a lot of farmers around me that also have that we can possibly work out.
Yeah, Farmboy, send me a DM, right? We're going to have to get Emmanuel back. Send me a DM just so I have you on file. But I think you made some good points. Let me just summarize them for people that are following. And don't go anywhere, sir. You talked about having silos and not chemicals. Very, very important. You know, when you go around Nigeria, you see these silos for the government in the east, in the north, and all that. We don't have enough. We don't have enough at all. We have to put in every farm in the US. You always see those tall silos in every farm. In Nigeria, we have national silos. We don't have enough. So we use pesticides, and that causes the exports to sometimes get rejected. I like the idea of the incubation center. What you're basically saying is to have a system whereby there is a marketing board in quote that is buying from people, storing and exporting. Like in Ivory Coast, The government is buying, storing, pricing, giving you the inputs. That's why the number one cocoa exporter in the world. It's not you want to do it. It's really an organized, systematic way to get inputs out and to get exports in. So I like that idea a lot, right? Testing, you've spoken about that. Niron is back testing up that we have a testing site in University of Ilorin and also University of Ibadan. So that's good to know. And then you also spoke about your agents, having agents that can pay you. I know I saw in Ethiopia where the coffee farmers would go on their phones and would find the price of coffee in the commodity exchange in Chicago, and then are able to sell their coffee at the same price to the local coffee buyers on the commodity exchange in Ethiopia. So technology means that you don't have to go through a third party. So I would say good comment that you've made. But let me let others speak and I'll come back to it. I've got Ibibio Man and I've got Dr. Ikena and I've got Farm Grid. So we'll take Ibibio Man, Farm Grid, and then Dr. Ikena, and then we'll take Femi Scorpion. So Ibibio Man, you have the floor, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you. It's a bit rusty, but we can hear you.
All right. Better now. So my question, I have two questions actually, and it's kind of a follow-up to the certifications that were just talked about. So my first question, you said that the last speaker, he made mention that there were 2 labs in Nigeria that they do this testing.
Yeah.
My question is, Mr. Niron, he mentioned that there are several certifications that we need, right, to be able to make the exports possible. But is it one lab that can issue all of these, or is the lab just to test and the results are sent to these international bodies that then certify us? Or is it the lab that can issue the certificates? I'm kind of confused.
I think it's Nero is back, so he's going to answer. But I think it's product specific. If you want to export cocoa, then they will tell you test this cocoa, then you find out which lab tests cocoa. But Nero, can you give us a bit more picture on this question? Nero? He's gonna come back and just answer your question. Ibibio Man, hold on.
Sorry. The lab I'm talking about, the lab is just to tell you the content of your grains or anything you are taking to them.
Okay.
It's not a certification agency or anything. Just for you to know this is what and what is in your grain.
So, for instance, give us an example. If they say they want grain that is its moisture 5%, is that what the lab is going to test?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
And then you can know the results, right? Okay, that's
perfect. But Ibibio Man, but no, I said on the links, right? You can get this. If you go to that link, I'm going to show you. You will basically see what they need. Like if you want to export cocoa, they will tell you these are the flags, and you have to take off all those flags. Like, okay, I have done this, I have done this, I have done this. Right. So your second question is what? Yeah.
Sorry, thank you very much. My second question is it's more of a general question about the value chain. Okay, so let me just use a specific scenario. Say we've talked a lot about ginger, right? This like it's not related to this to what I don't know if it is. I'm just going to ask it. Is it better? Would you say that it's better to export these products in their crude form? I know it generally depends on what the customer wants, but I'm asking which is more like from an expert's point of view, which is more profitable per se, which involves less risk. Would you prefer?
I think that's an economic question, and it's you always get value addition when you process. So whoever is doing the processing is capturing more value. So if you export cocoa, raw beans, or you export cocoa powder that's been processed, the price keeps on going up. Whoever is doing the processing is capturing value. But the question is now, if you build a local processing center, and I give you an example of cassava. Nigeria is the largest producer of cassava in the world, but Thailand is the largest post-producer of cassava. So Thailand has got lots of tapioca products, chips, wine, with cassava, but Nigeria just does gari, and now we're doing ethanol chips and all that. So whoever does the processing captures the value. If Niron wants to add, or if any of the farm guys here want to add, they can chip in, please.
Thank you very much. So for the ginger that we were able to export last year, Hello?
Yeah, no, I can hear you.
Yes, so for the 2,000 tons that we were able to export last year, the request was for split ginger. So usually most of these countries, they have this policy where you cannot import processed products into their country. For instance, if you are exporting ginger, they want it as ginger roots, the split ginger, and not the ginger powder. Most of the EU companies, most of the EU countries. Then about the testing. Now the issue is most of them won't recognize tests conducted in Nigeria. That is why when you take your test to them, they still want you to send those tests they still want you to send those samples to countries that they trust. They trust more than us. Now, for the ones that the other speaker said in Ibadan, those they might be able to test maybe moisture content and all of that. But when it comes to more technical requirements, for instance, like MRL, they will require that you send it to a lab that they trust before they can say, okay, they want to issue you that certificate. I hope I've been able to clear that.
Yes, I think that's well appreciated. Yes. So I think the buyer, what I hear you saying is it is the buyer that specifies where he wants the testing. So if Nigeria got a very, very good lab, then probably they would say, okay, come. So we do have the lab, but the buyer is the one specifying, which is the problem, right? Okay, super. All right, so Niro and Farm, please stay there. So Ibiman, thank you so much, right? So I have Farm Grid. Farm Grid, I have you, sir. Go ahead.
All right, good evening.
How you doing, sir?
I'm fine, I'm doing well. The farmer buyers actually said a lot to say, but one of the most, okay, let me just quickly react to the lady that I've actually asked about charcoal exports. That's a business I've done before. I've done that business like 4 or 5 years back, and I've exported charcoal to Cyprus before. So if you really need to do that business, where you need to go is Igogon, Igono, Ogun side in Oyo State, where you can get. You don't need to go through the top party. The only sacrifice you need to make is sleeping over in those rusty towels and aggregating your charcoals there, where you are ready, making your container there, fill it up and then export. So you might not need to go through third party. That's what I've done.
So sure.
Talking about the lab thing.
So Farm Grid, just to answer, so you are replying to the lady that she doesn't have to go through a third party. She can export the charcoal directly herself. Is that correct?
She can do that directly. Yes. I've done it before.
Okay, go ahead. Then go ahead.
You have your market. You can export directly.
Excellent. So it's more or less who you are talking to.
So,
yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. About the lab, there are a lot of lab. Yeah, there are a lot of lab that you can actually get sample testing. Apart from the ones that Ahmed has mentioned, we have some labs also in Lagos, NIHOT too in Ibadan, National Institute of Horticultural, whatever. You have a very standard, in fact, very standard lab, and recently improved lab, and they are doing a lot in that regards. So the third thing I would like to discuss is about the importance of marketing board. If you look deeply and you look at countries that have actually made a lot in terms of exporting their products, you'll see that there's a way their government is supporting us. Let me tell you, exporting of products encompasses a lot of things, and part of it is trust, and trust in terms of the quality of what you want to export, and again the synergy between both countries. So the diplomacy and a whole lot of things, and that's the reason why the issue of marketing board needs to be discussed very well. If you look at the Indian model, most of the products that Indian is exporting from their country, they have a lot of help from the marketing board in their country. I don't think we need to suffer because we want to export. There should be a desk where you can link up with your marketer, where you can link up with your buyer, and you can definitely negotiate. So that desk is what is missing, and that desk is the marketing board that we really need to have if we want to really get it right, so that you don't need to run to Apapa. You don't need to be afraid that your container might get lost. You don't need to be afraid that when you even send things abroad, it might stay 2-3 months in Apapa and get spoiled before they even pick it up. So there's a lot that the marketing board can actually do for us. It has to be governmental. That's the supporting structure that we need as exporter. Without that, I've tried to do that a lot. Tried to do the exporting thing a lot.
Yeah.
My brother, I chopped Koboko several times. So, but if we can have this marketing board, that supporting that support, I think exporting of our products as farmers and processors will be easier. Thank you.
So Farm Grid, don't go anywhere, right? Just stay right there. So one thing I did find out, and I agree with you completely, is that all the countries that export agricultural produce and are doing very well, they all have very powerful and very efficient marketing boards. All of them. There is no country that you'd have a single guy exporting on his own. It's just not possible. That's one rule that the government can really play. Even if it's to outsource to a company and say, okay, this company...
Let me quickly chip in this, Mr.
Go for it.
What Ethiopia, if you look at the Ethiopian model, what they are doing, in fact, if you study their model, what they are doing is cooperative. You have like 200 farmers trying to export flowers. You have like 200 farmers trying to export coffee. You have like 200, so it's more or less like a cooperative thing. They aggregate, they plant, and it's not an individual thing.
Yes.
I just know that I have 2,000 kg out of what is going out of this country, and you receive your money easily. Probably after 10 working days, as soon as the thing goes out, you receive your money, and it's always in tune with the prevailing market value in that country. It's not as if there's a third party somewhere that is trying to rape you of $1 or something like that.
Yeah.
That is what the government has provided for them, and it's working.
And you are saying the same thing that the farmer boy is saying as well. He can't give somebody his produce and wait for 3 months. He has bills to pay. He's not going to wait. But if we had a marketing board that will pay you, and a matter of fact, in Europe, you get paid even before you plant through futures. You are paid even before you plant. So you have already earned your income before harvest. And that is the income that you basically get via the commodity market, futures trading. So Nigeria has really got to go back and say this farming thing is not just going and carrying hoe and cutlass. It's a whole ecosystem. I think I have to bring you guys back for a spaces. Farm Grade, Farmer Boy, Niron, you guys should come in and talk to us about agriculture. Add a few other people and let's do this whole value chain. So please, sir, I've got the Farmer Boys DM. Send me a DM so I have it stored there. I'm going to have to do a space for just agriculture. So I want to have Dr. Ikenna speak. After Dr. Ikenna, I have Femi Scorpions and then Niger Boy. Dr. Ikenna, thank you for waiting, sir. Go ahead. Hi, Dr. Ikenna. Maybe I'll just skip you a bit since you're not ready, sir. I'll go to Femi Scorpions. Femi, are you there? Ikenna, is that you or is that Femi Scorpions? Who is speaking, sir?
Speaking. Good evening, sir.
So is this Dr. Ikenna?
This is Femi.
Oh, Femi, go for it. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Kalu.
How are you?
House.
Thank you.
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity.
You're welcome.
It's very, very enlightening. God bless you. Quickly, I need to speak about a little bit about charcoal and about testing and some market opportunities.
Okay.
Number one, presently, charcoal is banned from exporting in Nigeria. Presently, since last year, April, we have been on this. Presently, I have about 12 containers at the port since April that has not been exported. That is the problem we are facing presently in Nigeria. And it's a very bad one for us.
It's the environment. We want to protect the environment.
Yeah, I agree with that, but there was no prior notice. There was before it was banned, and later they gave us room to be doing this. And this one that was banned. We are tying down our funds at the ports for almost 8 months, going to 9 months now, and that's crazy. And this is one of the policy of Nigerian government that kills business. They don't want to know how you get your money. They don't want to know who is financing you. They don't want to know what is at stake for you. It's so sad presently at the moment, and we are still working on that. So they are discouraging people like us from investing in Nigeria. So that is the problem we are facing. That one aside, on the aspect of looking for buyer, you can see a buyer on your own. Possibly there are a lot of sites where you can register. You communicate with buyer. You just register probably with $100, $200. You communicate with different buyers around the world that is looking for this particular product. Not even only charcoal, other products. They are looking for other products. If you can give them samples and they are okay with what you are doing or what you give to them, they look into it and ask you for price. That is number 2. Number 3, I think we have Firo, that is a lab that tests almost virtually everything that we are producing in Nigeria that gives you certification before exporting there. Are you with me, sir?
I'm still here, yeah.
Hello?
I'm here.
Yes, go ahead,
I'm just listening.
Okay, sir. So there is Firo in Lagos, is a federal government lab where you can test all these things. They are in Oshodi, and their website is firo.org, FIRO.org. You can get all necessary information from them on whatever you need to get certification for before you export them. And also, a speaker also talked about market board or thereabouts that maybe government is not doing it. I think the government, especially this government, they are trying. I've been involved in some things they have done with NEPC, National Export Promotion Council, in the aspect of giving you market and price of it. If you write to them or you visit any of their offices in Nigeria, they support you, they give you the information you want. They can, at times, they give you buyers. At times, they give you buyers to sell your goods to. They give you updated price of these goods in Nigeria. Any of the offices of NAPC can do this for you. I'm very sure that is what I gain opportunity from them. Also, if you register with them, if you are on their mailing list, they used to have a seminar that they call people to come around to attend the seminar. They even have exhibition outside Nigeria that they advertise. They even help in processing visas in some cases. Prior, before this COVID-19 issue, they used to do this very well. They give exhibitions. If you have what you want to go and showcase abroad, they inform you, they tell you what is involved. Once you have your documents, you give it to them, they assist you in visa processing. You go to abroad to go and market the Nigerian goods. Around the world, they do this very often. And recently, just about a few months ago, they gave opportunity for loan. They want to assist every exporters that have evidence that he has exported one thing or the other in the past, probably in the last 12 months or 24 months. They give money to people to support their businesses. Once you have evidence that you are doing this and you can submit it, they can verify it. They approve some certain amounts for you to to cushion your business. So I think we should give it to them. They are trying their best on this. And I think they can, I'm not saying they cannot do better than this, unlike other countries. But I think with this, they have done so far, they are trying. So I think maybe we have to communicate with them more, or to give them more ideas on what they need to do. But with what I have achieved so far from them, I think they've really tried. So this is my contribution tonight, Mr. Kabi.
So I agree with you. Like, I was very, let me say, very, very surprised the amount of information and the amount of support that comes from the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. I haven't dealt with them before. I've been to their office in Abuja, but I would say this. I mean, I would say this for them. They are doing a very, very good job in terms of the data they have out there. Most of the links that I have are from their site. And they basically, if you want to do export and you want to do research, you can just go to their site and get everything done on their site in terms of research and support. So it's now down to you to then go out and say you want to do your business. But let's not shy away from the point we made by the two farmers here. A marketing board, marketing board is very essential. You cannot export in commercial quantities to take advantage of opportunities without the government coming in to allow the private sector pay for goods, store those goods and all that. You know, if you drive on the expressway in Nigeria, what do you see? You see beans drying on the road. You see fruits drying on the road. How much is a dryer? If you go to YouTube or Amazon, how much is a grain dryer? They're not up to $100,000. We can buy one dryer for one local government, and every harvest season is used over and over, and people dry things, and then you can store. How much is a silo? Use GP tanks. How much is really a storage? GP tanks and a dryer, you have solved almost 30% of the problem. But who's going to do this? It can't be state, it can't be local. We have to have a national policy, right? National agricultural policy with marketing boards, with the private sector, with the farmers all together. That's just my take on it.
I agree with you, sir. Thank you very much. Last one thing. Do you privy to any information from the government about the ban on charcoal, or when they are looking at lifting this ban concerning we that have containers at the port for almost 8-9 months now?
No privy to that. I will put it on Twitter. I think the issue is how to do with all these things we have signed. Paris Accord, Climate Accord. Charcoal is killing the trees. The West does not like it and all that. I think that's really the problem. Maybe they could allow you guys to export. I don't know, but it's really a problem for you guys. I really feel for you. So I think it's something you can push. If you can get some political noise and just to allow you guys to get it off the port at least, maybe. But that's really the reason. That's what's going on. I have no insight right now for that.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Yeah. All right. You're welcome. Dr. Ikenna, I know you're back. I don't know if you can hear me, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you so much for this space. I've been having a challenge with the phone. Mine is a question. There are two problems that has been raised here, which is the marketing board and the laboratory and all that. I know I could get some of this information online, but I believe that we have some individuals with I wrote down the name Niran.
Yeah.
They have information on the analysis and all that. I am asking if they can give you such information, such as the testing equipment, the testing methods and all that. Maybe, for example, there's some individuals, maybe if I want to go into that, I may not want to go into export. Maybe I want to be on the part of the technical part. Maybe, let's say, set up a laboratory that will be doing all this testing. Yes, they have been mentioning a lot of laboratories and all that. I know that some of them, for the one of the moisture content, that is the simplest way. It's just is the simplest and test method. But the one of the chemical content and the one of what's it called, the pesticide and all that, all these chemicals that are found in food products. what type of equipment, what type of analysis, instrumentation that is required in all these methods. That's what I want to ask. If they can give you the information, perhaps maybe you can add it to the research that you are doing. And because I just checked, I'm just browsing on the Nigerian Promotion Council website. I'm not seeing most of this information. And secondly, so I believe that this space is a good space. Maybe if you would consider to look into organizing the marketing board, setting up a movement that will be able to promote the marketing board, maybe from the private sector. If the meeting goes on at a point, it will be get to a situation whereby the government might look into it and say, yes, this group they are saying something good, because the export helps the government, it helps the individual. So this space is a good space, and I believe if I'm suggesting, if you can look into, because when you have I've been following you from Facebook and Twitter, and the information that you're giving out is sound information in terms of finance. And here in export, I believe that if there are somebody that can be able to champion this, is individuals like you, organize people and...
I hear you. I hear you, Doctor. Doctor, I hear you completely. The first question about the instrumentation, I think that's a bit technical. Maybe that's why NEPC and myself are not really going into it. And I think for now, if I'm an exporter and I'm just coming brand new, I think it's an easier way to simply take the specifications, send my samples to the lab, and then get that tested at that lab. How they do it, you have to be an expert per se. If you are looking for this information, maybe to set up your own factory, I don't think it's hard to get. I think if you commission Nero or you commission anyone to get this information for you, the exact specificities, it can be done. But I think it's a bit technical for the generality of the guys that really want to do it. It's a good question, but then maybe a bit technical. But for the second question on regards the value chain, if you look at the whole value chain for agriculture, we seem to only focus on the planting side, planting, harvesting. The process is post-harvest, storage, logistics, and then that marketing board to connect the farmers and the producers with the actual users of the products. Again, I give an example of Thailand and Nigeria. Nigeria is the largest producer of cassava, but Thailand, that makes 13% or so, has got 70% of the world's export market for cassava. Why? They have a marketing board that is going out there selling tapioca. If you go to Walmart, you see cassava chips. There are no cassava chips in Walmart from Nigeria. We try to do cassava additives in Nigeria and it's all crumbled, it's all gone back. So we have to do a bit more in this. And I agree with you. I don't know if maybe these farmers come back. I'm trying to get them all together at Farm Boy, all these other guys. If they come back, probably we can get something moving and try to set up a marketing. I don't like government, right? But I think a PPP would work where you have a private sector guy with the exchanges, with what the NGX is doing, with an exchange that can then champion this. That might be a way forward. So I hear your questions. I agree with them. It's just, let's see what can happen, right? Yeah. All right. So we have the young Nigerian, and then I have Niger Boy, and I'm going to add some other guys in to speak. So, young Nigerian, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity given to me. This space is actually a game changer. I've got my first question for you. If you can just give me a quick response, if you do know, what is the current effort made by the Nigerian government to make sure that our food produce is accepted in UK, Europe, and USA? Do you have any update on that? Because there's a current ban. Is there any efforts to make sure that our food produce is accepted in those three places that I've just mentioned?
Sorry, I didn't get it. Could you ask again, please? I'm so sorry. You broke up a bit.
That's okay. Currently, our food produce from Nigeria is currently banned in UK, USA, and Europe at the moment because of the pesticide, insecticide that we are using fertilizer or something. Do you have any update of any Nigerian government effort to make sure that we comply and our food produce is accepted there? That's my first question.
Yeah.
If you answer that, now go ahead.
No, I mean, just like you, I saw it. I've seen it. I saw the notice that the exports are banned for pesticides and the rest. It's in the papers. So I'm not the guy to answer. I think they were like someone that's explained we are using chemicals to store and not silos. So that's the reason why, but I can't explain what they are doing going forward, right?
Right, okay, that's fine. And also myself, I've lived in Nigeria for 15 years. I've been in the UK for 21 years now, about 22 years. So I'm 37 years of age myself. I'm looking to go to Nigeria to look for opportunities. So I've been working on some IT projects regarding Nigeria because first of all, when you want to do business in Nigeria, trust is an issue. But with the effort made by the government, the BVN and NIN, you can ascertain the person that you're dealing with. And as an IT person, we've been able to use that to build a system like a know your customer system, know the individual that you're interacting with. I mean, we're 80% there at the moment. So I'm looking, how can we possibly form a community or like a cooperative that we can implement that side of IT to agriculture, so that when we're dealing with one another, we can know who we are, and also we can form a community that, when someone is coming from England now looking at Nigeria as a possible place to source a product, they can just come on a platform. Can we work on a platform together? I mean, if there's anyone that wants to work on such platform, I'm very open. And if yourself wants to be involved, we can have like a meeting kind of thing. Whereas, for the main reason that we can use the current system, the BVN, the NIN system, to ascertain who someone is, and we can deal with one another easily with trust built into the system, and also bring in an agricultural system, that a platform where people can come and engage in, because we can always say the government. What are we the people doing? Or if anyone have idea of what we can do together, to move things forward without actually waiting for the government. And like someone said, once these things are in place, we can now propose it like, this is what we have done as Nigerians. This is the benefit that we're ripping off it. This is the support that we need from the government. So if anyone has any idea that they want to bring forward, please do contact me or the host, and I would like to engage the host after this room. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I mean, a community is always better than one, right? If you have a community, you're always better than one. So I always like to start from what already exists. Like I said, the NEPC, you can go to the NEPC site and register if you are trying to go into exports and that activity. If it's just for pure business, there are lots of sites in Nigeria that have their groupings, their pages, and all that on Twitter, on Clubhouse, and all that. It's to get people to come together for something. There has to be what is in it for them, right? Nobody's going to join an association without seeing something there for them. So I would say this, right? Go to an already existing association. There are association of cooperatives, there's farmers. Go there and then digitize what they are doing. So that way you can say, hey, you guys already have a database. I'm going to digitize it. So that way we can talk online, even if I'm from the UK and from the US. But in terms of registry, the NEPC already has something. So if you're trying to talk to Nigerians in that same space, you can also get that for you. But there are databases everywhere. The problem is, did your database talk? That's really the question, I think, right? So good idea, but yeah, you have to work on it. All right, so we've got Niger Boy. Thank you, Pharmacist, for coming back in case we have a question for you. And I've got Mr. Unlimited again. So Niger Boy, what do you want to say to us, sir? Go for it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Parrott. I wanted to touch on, somebody asked earlier about catfish.
Yeah.
And it's a subject I've actually been researching for quite a while, and I discovered that the United States was one of our largest exports when it comes to catfish, and in 2018 they banned Nigeria from exporting catfish to the United States, and they raised issues on storage and sanitation, something like that. That the catfish were getting feed that were not good for consumption, for human consumption.
Yeah.
And eat absolutely everything you give them. And so currently Nigeria cannot export catfish to the United States. I don't know about Europe yet. That is why I just forgot about the whole catfish thing.
Yeah.
And then talking about exports out of Nigeria to Europe, to the United States, some of the things, obviously, we do not have enough storage facilities in Nigeria. I think the government has not done enough for what we're not producing a lot, actually, but for what we have, the government have not done enough. But some of the things are actually out of our control and out of the government's control. Like there's a lot of factories in Europe and in the US that depends on raw materials coming from Africa. So when we start processing those things here, it's taking away jobs from them, and they are going to start implementing policies. That is why sometimes it is actually more profitable to export at the raw stage than adding value through processing. Okay, so in the course of my research, I have come across a couple of things like that, especially with Ghana. When Ghana started processing their cocoa into chocolate, they actually got less value for it because these companies in Switzerland said the chocolate did not meet their standards, and so they cannot buy it at the price Ghana was trying to sell it.
Yeah.
So that's some of the problems we're facing, and it's actually, like I said, out of our control. But one thing I wanted to ask you, Mr. Kalu, is in terms of meeting the markets here in Nigeria, actually, I'm working with a friend. I don't live in Nigeria, but I come and go. So I'm working with a couple of friends, and we're looking to invest in the value chain in cassava.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know if the federal government or state governments, because I know I read an article one time that says if you want to build like a refinery or a factory or something, the federal government can give you loans that are not in monetary terms, but in a collaboration with Chinese companies that can help you build this refineries. I don't know if you have information about this.
I think Nigeria or the CBN has this agricultural loans that are single digit and all that. So if you were trying to get a loan to go into the agricultural space, both in terms of taxation and in terms of interest paid, you do have some subsidies from the government of Nigeria, right? And I will say this, if you want to go into that value chain in cassava, that's a good place to go into. The value chain is deficient in terms of the storage and the post-processing. As you know, let me see. As you know, cassava can't be stored for a long time above ground. So once it's above, say, 2 hours, right, cassava tends to go bad. There's this container that DATCO, I think is a Dutch agric, whatever, DADTCO. They do these containers that you can basically process the cassava tubers into high quality flour and paste that can last longer than 6 months. Anything you do with cassava for post-processing is going to be a gold mine for you because China is buying the cassava to use as cassava chips, as ethanol, as alternative fuel, right? So that's going to be a very, very good way for you to just export something. Cassava is everywhere in the Southeast, but the problem is the post-harvest production. So I would say on the right path, I think you should get more information on that, Commission of Business Plan, and that was a good place for you to get into that value chain. It's profitable. Like I said, people want to get the cassava chips. Focus on the post-harvest processing. That's where I think the market is. Niger boy, are you still there? Are we good?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, focus.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir. And I've got Mr. Unlimited. Thanks, guys. Thanks for staying in here. We're almost an hour and 30 minutes. I think we'll shut down the next 15 minutes. Mr. Unlimited, do you have anything else to add to your conversation?
Yeah, I do. First of all, I don't know, more like say maybe a contribution or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I suffer from a mathematical background. I think we learn best by practicing, by solving equations. So in this case, I think we've done more rhetorical. So I was just thinking, I don't just know. I was just thinking if you, with your kind leadership, could say, okay, how many people love what you call it? Will it be, I don't know, firewood or whatever thing you choose? The cassava value chain you talked about now, interesting. Okay, let's raise 500,000 per individual. I will create this cooperative, or not. Must not necessarily be a cooperative. It could be 5, it could be 10, and then you pay us with, that means the amount, whosoever you deem fit. Then at least even if we don't really register a company for now, just hear me out. Then maybe we do this export through this person, this once, just so we see how this thing goes, and then the person can take a percentage of the profit. I mean, it's allowed. It's the person's time we're talking about here. And then on our own, we cannot decide, okay, do we want to continue this? Do we still want to do this? Do you want to go back and form with other people? Do you want to handle this on our own? Do you want to continue as a team? I think that would make this whole space, this 1 hour 30 minutes, more valuable and more profitable. It must not be immediate, because if you peg it on 3 months' time, you could peg it on, 5 months' time, I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. Yes.
I mean, I hear you. See, listen, guy. What I try to do is just to get information out there, right? I just like people to come in and talk and get information, and then they can run with it. That's just my role. You get it, right? So there are lots of roles people can play. Yeah, if you go online, there are tons of crowdfunding. There are tons of cooperatives out there that you can join, right? Many people have joined this space. They knew nothing about exports, and now they know just maybe 1% now of export. So they can now go read for the other 99%, right?
Yeah.
So
I understand
my rule is just
in the past, the man that talked to you, if I'm greedy, you might not know me. I've done business with him before, and a couple of them actually. Yes, I've been in tech for a while now, but I've always had this strong interest in agriculture, and I know how much I've lost there, and I don't want to talk about it. These people, when you meet them and they tell you their stories, yes, they might have made it to that point, but trust me, when you hear their story, you'll be like, am I even sure I want to go into this? Am I sure I want to go through all this before getting to where they are now? So what I'm saying is, I get your point. You don't want to get overly involved in this, as a Nigerian factor. You don't want it to sound as if something goes wrong, you want to accelerate it or something. I'm just saying, just put out the words there for us.
No, I'm just saying, what I'm saying is that there are already outlets out there for you to get into agriculture. See, you have friends, right? You have friends. You have 2 or 3 friends. Form a cooperative and do what you're saying. Get a cooperative. You guys don't know anything about agriculture. You now know there's the farmer boy is here. Niron is here. Those guys have all been here. Get in contact with them and start something. Right?
Sorry, I don't know if I can say this.
Yeah, go for it, farmer boy.
I usually tell most especially young guys that are into agri, I usually tell them that, you see, you can only make wealth in agri if you start looking for problems and start providing solutions. Because for me, I believe providing solutions should give you something in return, rather than you just sitting and hoping things will change. Let me give you an instance. I've been agri for over 10 years now, and I discover that majority of us are just jumping into the business year in, year out. We are failing. I said, why are we failing? Lack of machines to carry out most of our activities on time. I started investing in mechanization, and to the glory of God, I would say it. I'm one of the very few mechanization companies in Nigeria that runs farm activities from land preparation to harvesting. I will even say I'm the first mechanization company that will ask John Deere combine harvester, 3 of it for harvesting, because we invest so much on that land preparation, planting, and when it's times come for you to harvest, it becomes an issue. 30% to 40% of everything you have labored for will get waste on the field due to delay in harvesting at all. I try, Nigeria is a very big country, only one country, only one person can answer. I look at it again. Okay, we have made a point in that area. I look at it. What can we do again in the area of storage? I think I sent you a DM of the silos facility. We tried to take over from an individual. It has been there for almost 10 years, and this person is not using it. We are approaching. Can you give us these silos? Let us talk to people. We come together, put our money, keep this produce let's say, for instance, they started selling maize at the rate of 12,000 this season from the beginning around September or so. As I speak to you, maize is around 22,000 naira. So for me, what I say is just that it is just scary out there.
Farmer boy. I'm looking at the silos right now. What are you? You want to buy these silos? You want to buy these silos?
No, I'm not buying. You see, the first problem is that the first owner do not even know how to fix that silo. You know, you have to check the temperature of that silo. So I gave them my word that I can fix these silos. So we fix it. They said they don't even know what to use it for again, because that place was meant to be a chicken feed factory, but they are no longer producing. I said, okay, can you concession this? Can you give us these silos? Let us form something like a cooperative. We aggregate, keep into it, and sell later on. They agreed, and we are in the process of fixing all those silos. So I felt these kind of, let me say, huge potentials are there all over the country. I know of a lot of federal silos that are just anybody that knows how to get his way to the government can try and get these silos, fix them, and get people on board to invest into aggregation. So sometimes I don't, because I believe government alone cannot do this.
So Farmer Boy, I'm asking. So are you saying that should we buy this? Do you want to buy this silo? Is that what it is?
No, it's just like rentage.
Okay, do you want to rent it? Because what I'm asking you is this, right? I could put this up on Twitter now, and we could say, okay, if people are interested,
let me just explain my own ideology about this. I find the silos and it has been there not working. I approached the owner. Can you give out these silos? I'm going to fix it. Then my plan is that I'm going to get people. We form something like a cooperative, independent. We hire somebody that will manage it. We invest our money, buy our farm produce, keep into the silos, and sell when we feel like selling. Each and everybody knows how much he contributed. You know the price of maize at the time you buy and the time you are selling.
Yeah, because
do you get what I'm saying?
I completely get you. So I'm trying to tie into what you're saying and what the gentleman, just Mr. Niger Boy, he was talking about getting opportunities. So if this is still up for lease, why don't you form a cooperative and then let people get involved and lease it from the company, and then we could do something. Do you want to tweet the silo right now to people, and then you could talk about forming a cooperative? Do you want that?
No problem. But let me just put this out there. If we are forming a cooperative, I don't want to get fully involved in the activities. Rather than this is a silos, we have to appoint independent people that will manage it. Everybody will know how much is coming in.
So for me, what I'm thinking is this, right? I understand this value chain here, and I'm looking at these silos, right? And I'm saying, if you are a farmer, right, you have your produce, and we have this silo, and we had a long lease, then we can advertise and say, listen, you can store your produce here. It's rent. Silos are just rent for grains. It's the same way as a tenant paying rent. It's rent. So that's what I'm saying. So let's talk more on DM. I'm going to tweet your silos. Let's talk on DM. If it's something we can work with, I can put it up to people to look at. I just put the silos up on Twitter, guys. So the Farmer Boy, let's talk on DM, sir. I'll talk to you on DM. All right?
No problem.
All right.
Our time is almost up here. Please. One last thing. Can we just, since exporting is becoming an issue in Nigeria, maybe because of the government or several factors, can we just have a book dot, maybe export it via any neighboring country? I mean, would that cause a problem? Would that be okay?
I told someone that he should export through Benin Republic because the ports were better. I hope I'm not being unpatriotic, but I just said you might.
You are actually being patriotic, sir.
The Farmer Boy, I know that there's no more exporter to talk, but I think that you want to manage your margins, and if you see a cheaper place to reduce your margins, I would say go for it, right? If you can export cheaper out, manage your margins and go for it that way. I have Emeka Okafor still waiting to speak. So Niger Boy, thank you so much. Emeka Okafor, you have the floor. After Emeka Okafor, I have Ugo Okafor. So Emeka Okafor, so I'll go for it.
Yes, well, thanks, Carlo, for this platform, because exporting and value addition is really the key opportunity we have in Nigeria to lift ourselves out of where we are developmentally. One of the things I've noticed in the conversation is that most of the exporting targets seem to be in Europe and North America. And I don't know if people realize the extent to which Asia in particular should be a much larger export target for products coming out from Nigeria and Africa. The reason I say this is that I'll give at least one example. There's a company out of Rwanda that was able to put together a exporting deal with a company in China that was worth $500 million. And this had to do with chili oil, organic chili oil. So the US and Europe are fine, but the biggest growing market in the world for exporting now is in Asia, whether it's China, Indonesia, Thailand, which you mentioned for cassava, et cetera, et cetera. And the extent to which information can be provided on targeting Asia as opposed to just Europe and North America, I think would be useful. Europe is very protectionist, more protectionist than almost any other part of the world. And the United States is similarly protectionist, but not as protectionist as Europe. And I think it behooves us to find a way to export more products to Asia. And the second point I wanted to make is that, Akalo, maybe this is something you or others might be able to champion. Maybe there could be an incubator or accelerator that speaks to export opportunities for producers, processors, and even startups as a group. And I think if that is done, and it's done and it's private sector driven, people will have a better sense of the opportunities in the export center. So those are the only things I wanted to say, and thanks again for putting this together.
Yeah, Mick, and hold on before you go, right? So when I did the research, you're very correct. I did find that because the app will show you where there is a potential for exports, and the greatest potential for Nigerian exports was in what country? Vietnam, then China. So it was all east, Pakistan, Vietnam, China. That was basically where the app was taking me to. You put cocoa, you put cashew, you put this, it takes you to the east. So it just ties in with what you've said. The data is showing that that's where we should start to look at. And I'll give you your example about protectionist. I mean, Europe, and I hope there's no European listening, but Europe is trying to ban the imports of palm oil because they say palm oil is bad for the environment because you have to clear out the land and then plant the palm plantations. But Europe is saying that sunflower oil is okay. So they want to substitute palm oil for sunflower oil, right? And guess where sunflower is grown? It's grown in Europe. So France has already banned palm oil. And this is just,
I'm very familiar with this conversation around palm oil and protectionist Europe. And the thing is, unlike Indonesia or Malaysia that has a very vibrant palm oil lobbyist sector, when the French talked about restricting palm oil exports to from, I think it was either Indonesia or Malaysia, they threatened them with not buying Airbus planes. And they quickly backed down. The whole palm oil being about orangutans being killed and deforestation, this is all protectionist. The thing is, we as Africans are not organized, and we don't have people who understand the geopolitical reasoning behind these kinds of bans. And I think it's better for us to focus on Asia. And when I talk about Asia, I'm even referring to the Middle East, the Arab world, right through to Turkey and the rest of Asia. Europe is fine, but the trouble they put you through just to get products exported, my thinking is that you'll encounter a lot less of that if you're looking at the Asian part of the world. So yes, the palm oil thing is politically loaded. I've posted articles on that. Asia is a much bigger market for us as African Nigerian exporters.
Correct.
And we have a lot more to learn from them than we do trying to penetrate markets that are trying to protect their own companies and so forth. So anyway, thank you again.
You're welcome, Emeka. Yeah, keep in touch. Don't be a stranger, right?
I won't be.
All right, good. All right. Okay, Wallace, I've got Wally, and then we'll start to round up. I want to get Farmer Boy in here, but Wallace, how can I help? Go for it.
So good evening. I don't know, my network is really bad, so I'll just go straight to the point.
Go for it.
So anything like retail exports in Nigeria, and again, I think most times the issue with exporting is that most people don't really know where to like get clients and have trust issues are like one of the major issues. So is it like people just export, then they pay later, or like what's the whole process about?
I think the process for exporting, if I can be very, very simplistic, right? You do your research, you find a product that you can get sufficient quantities and quality. Then you go online and you find a market for that product who can buy at that product from you. They would send you their specifications in terms of quantity and quality. You get that tested in the lab that they will advise you. Once they verify that you have it, then you can export to them either to Apapa or to their own receiving port. Once they receive that produce, they then pay you in foreign currency, usually the US dollar, into your domiciliary account that you've opened. Then you have the funds there. It's just like selling, but you're selling outside your country. So you are logistically moving those products to their port and then receiving payment via your bank through domiciliary account. So the advantage for you is that you're earning in a US dollar, but you're spending in Naira.
Yeah, so this is the issue. The issue is trust. Like, how would they want to trust you, especially when you're new to the whole process?
So, I mean, the way the trust works is because you're going to go bank to get your payments, right? Letter of credit through your bank. So you're aware that the bank will pay your bank if you export. So your agent is going to say, certify that, listen, you've moved the goods out. Then your agent gives the documents to his agent. Then his agent goes to his bank and then they pay you. So it's very important, like the speakers have spoken. I mean, Emmanuel at the very beginning said, work with an agent that knows what he is doing. That's essentially what he's saying. So work with an agent and you're able to protect yourself.
Oh, okay. So where's the platform to find this? I think I missed most of all this part. Where's the platform?
Yes, you know what the best thing for you is I'm going to do an article next week. I write for Nairametrics. If you can grab my Nairametrics article next week, we'll have an issue on exports. There'll be tons of links there, and it's going to give you a 1, 2, 3, 4 step by step on how you can export. That way you can get a head start on it. I'm also going to publish this spaces on my podcast immediately this is over. So if you can listen from the very beginning, you hear a guy called Emmanuel talking about exports and all that. That will also bring you up to speed. Lots of guys have spoken, the Farm Boy and all that. They're all there. Look at the guys speaking. You see a guy there called Farm Boy. Nero was here earlier. Those are people that have a lot of experience, and you can get lots of stuff from them. All right, super. I think his network just turned up just in time. And Nero is back. So if you're still listening, Nero is back on the speakers. Grab him. Grab the Farmer Boy. There was a guy also here. Grab them. I'm trying to get Emmanuel back in. I don't know where he is. If you can give us a closing remarks. Emmanuel, I don't have you as... I don't see your request to be as a speaker. Emmanuel, if you can send me a request to speak, I can basically just put you back in there so we can have you at least give a closing. I'm going to send you a request right now, Emmanuel. Lots of people want to hear you speak. I'm getting DMs who are asking where you went to. So please come back in so I can get you to speak, Emmanuel, and then we can sort of close it out. Yeah. So I've got Adedayo to speak. Adedayo, I'll just give you a few seconds and then I can get you back in. So we're going to round up very, very soon, guys, about 5 minutes or so. If I can get Emmanuel in, great. Otherwise, we'll round up in about 5 minutes or so. We've been here for about 2 hours talking about exports, and export has gone into agriculture. I think we have to bring all these guys back and talk about agriculture and also about geopolitics of it all. Adedayo, please go ahead and speak, sir.
Everybody, I think this is a very good platform to keep into. So I've been looking for an opportunity because ordinarily I do imports. So I've been looking for an opportunity to do export as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a very good opportunity. At least I want to key into this thing from the beginning to the end. And I want to tell us based on what I'm doing. Also, I also want to liaise with people that are also doing exports in terms of working with Nigerian banks. Sometimes they tell you to go and just bring an exporter or you to just exchange foreign currency in terms of when you need FX. So I think it's a place for us to work, collaborate very well, and move forward. Thank you, Kalu.
You're very welcome. Yeah. Okay, guys, so I'm just trying to work to get Emmanuel in here before we close. I'm sending him a new invite, and then if he can pop in, I can. Emmanuel, I've shut you out. Request to come back in, and I'll approve you, and then we can do it again. I just took you off, and I'm bringing you back in. So if you can do that, then that will just get you back in. So, Nero, you've been out. Do you want to make any closing comments? When you were out, lots of people are talking about this certification, and I've put up your company up on you have put your company up on Twitter. If you have any comments to make as we close, I'd like to hear you say that, sir.
All right, thank you very much for everyone that has spoken so far. So my closing remarks would be that exporting is very, very possible. It's very doable, even though it requires a lot of technicalities, but it is very, very possible. And I would like to encourage as many people as wants to go into commodity exporting, especially the agriculture, that yes, it can be done. It can be done. And I wish everybody success in their various business plans and ventures. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. The short one. Miss Fanboy, let me see. This is the Fanboy. I didn't invite you, but you've been so valuable to the conversation today. Do you have any closing remarks? I've got Naya Powers. Maybe let me take a question first before I then call on Fanboy. So Naya, did someone answered your question directly on the charcoal export? He said he had been exporting charcoal, but it's now stopped. You can no longer export charcoal, and that you can go directly. So maybe I want to try another product, or do you have another question to add to it?
No, I actually also asked if they can schedule other classes, maybe once a week or once a month.
On exports or on spaces we try to do these spaces one every Saturday, and we try to pick a topic, right? But I'm seeing a lot of demand on exports and agriculture. So I would definitely have this class again. I'm taking down names of people I'm going to invite next time. So I'm definitely going to have these guys come in next time and talk about export. Maybe we'll make it a bit more particular for exports and agriculture. So we'll do it again. But we always do this every Saturday, 8 p.m. Nigerian time.
Okay, thank you. I think this is the first time I'm actually saying it.
Oh, yeah. Tell your friends. Follow us. Follow me. Follow on Twitter. Yeah, we'd love to have you. Yeah?
Okay.
All right, super. Chinom, so how can I help you, sir?
Okay, good evening, everyone. So I joined this space late, like about 40 minutes ago. So I might have missed it, but I want to know, like, how do you like, what's the arrangement for like reaching out to those people that are supposed to like buy the products from the exporter in Nigeria here? Like, how do you go about reaching out to them and getting them to, talk to you, to even like give you a chance?
Yeah, so we try to address that at the beginning, but there are many message boards and many apps that you can go to, and you can find the exporters that are basically going to say, I want to buy this in this quantity, and then you can just communicate with them directly. So you communicate to them, they give you their specs, and then you go and confirm if you have the specs, and then you can continue talking. But when I do the article, I'll make sure the link is going to be there for you to just follow up, and you can see those message boards. Also, any PC has those links as well. That's Nigerian Export Promotion Council. Also have those links as well. So you have the guide, but like I said, the most important thing for you is to do your home research. Before you do anything with money, do your research and find out and make sure that you are able to continue and to meet those requirements, because they are very, very stringent. Like we've said, you can lose your funds if you do not have that knowledge. So before you do anything, make sure you do your research before you start.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. All right, so we're just going to round up here. Thank you, guys. It's a minute to go. I have King. King, you're going to be the last guy. Tola, Nu for good. You're going to be the last guy, and then I'll just give my vote of thanks to all those that have joined this space. At the point we had more than 200 guys learning. So yeah, King, go for it, sir. You're going to be our last speaker. All right, so King is not ready. So guys, we had Emmanuel here.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, King. Go for it.
All right, okay, thanks so much. I really appreciate this opportunity. Actually, I really came late to the class, but all the best. I could give one or two things. But before you go, please, I would just want to have an understanding of something here, like about this exporting of a thing. Do I really need much capital to start as a beginner? Please, I don't know, maybe I'm trying to class.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I think the capital that you need, right, depends on what you want to export. Yeah. So if, for instance, cocoa is about $2,500, just imagine cocoa $2,500, and the minimum is going to be 1 ton. What that means is that for you to export a minimum of cocoa, you need about maybe $3,000, like all expenses paid in. So it's going to be what you want to export will determine you understand the amount that you need. And like I've advised at the very beginning, be very careful about how you finance your exports. As a guy that has just said he has 8 containers of charcoal at the ports that he cannot export. Imagine if you had borrowed money from the bank to do those exports, that's going to be a problem. So try to, at the very beginning, have lots of reserve that you can do your export with your own funds rather than going to a commercial bank, because then they're going to charge you interest. But that's just my answer to that, if you don't mind. Do you have a follow-up to me?
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the response. Well, actually, what I really have in mind to export is, what I do is I produce pap. My mommy do produce pap. So I really have interest in exporting that. But the thing is, am I getting it done? I'm not really getting it. So I've been trying to do getting some research and everything. When I saw this thread, I was so happy to join.
Yeah. Why don't you try to follow up with the article I'll do on next week? Yeah, it will give you those links. You can go to those links and say, I want to export to a specific country, or I want to know what country buys pap. When you say pap, you're talking of starch, right? It's like the
pap,
ogi, yeah. So there'll be you have to try to get the name for pap. What is the export name for pap? Because they will call it something, not pap, or they will call it maybe starch or something. You have to get that and then try to understand who uses that. In what country is it used for? Like we eat it, in some countries it might be used for feed, or it might be used for an additive. So the thing for you is to do your research and find out what countries or can you export pap to, and what is it used for. That's where you want to start from. Once you get that, then you can start to do your research. Okay, what are the specifications that the importers would need from that space? I think that's where you want to start from. But the article will have the link, so you can easily go there and say, okay, I want to export this, to show you the countries in the world that would probably need that from you. That's where I think you should take it from.
All right, thank you so much. I will do that. I will follow you up on Twitter now.
Great.
Get all the information I need.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. All right, guys. So Madubiko, if you can be really quick, I'm going to add you in. Otherwise, we're just going to close. Madubiko, we are going to close right now. I just have a minute. Madubiko going once, going twice. All right, guys. So let me just say thank you to everyone that has listened. I appreciate you guys. We do these spaces for knowledge and for empowerment, and also to drive to research change. So what you hear some things. If you're a guy that knows somebody in power, go mention to him and say, hey, I heard this on the Spaces, and there are maybe containers of charcoal stock at the port is owned by Nigerians. Could we allow those containers to go? And then going forward, we could stop exports going forward. What about the marketing board? What about silos? I mean, if you hear stuff here, please go out and see if you can drive change with information. All we do here is try to get information out to you by bringing subject experts to talk about it. We try to do this every Saturday, 8 p.m. West African time, and you can just join me for these conversations. I've tried to be this time a learner and to listen to the experts. I want to thank all those guys, Farmer Boy, Nero, all those guys that have basically been with us from the start and have contributed and shared knowledge. It's just time for me to say thank you to all of you. I'm going to shut down the Spaces now, and then I'll just see you guys when I see you next week. Take care, guys. Follow the Twitter handle, FinPlanCarLogy1. Love you guys. Stay safe. Bye.